Welcome back to the lab. It's Thursday. We're cranking along on this Locost 7. That's right, I've put the noisy thing back in the front of it. Possibly not permanently, but it just needed to be in there to make sure of a few stuff and things. Make sure some things were going to work. One of them was setting up how we're going to do this exhaust out the side of the car. I talked about that earlier on in the previous video. That is a reasonably large hole that you see here. Don't worry about the bit behind it. There's a piece that goes in there that will fix that. Some people have got no imagination, so I'll have to show you. That goes... It's really hard to do with one hand. It's going to stay? Yeah, more or less. It goes about there. Now, this gap here looks quite large when we're looking at it like this. You got to remember this car's sitting up on top of sawhorses. It'll be down on the ground, basically. It's big, but it's not that big. I can make a closing panel to fill that gap up, so it's like that. It might look nicer. It has to be that size so that we can rivet that panel on rather than screwing it on, so we'll have better structural integrity, big words. But it has to be that size so that we can get the exhaust out without putting a flange on it somewhere to enable us to get it on and off to do work on the car, because it's got this massive two-pipe or two-port flange on the front of it here that just fits like by millimeters through this hole that I've left here. So we'll leave that over to the owner to have a look at it in person. He's seen it in photos I was going to say, but only one, and is happy with it. I'm okay either way. We can make a panel that goes on from the inside or from the outside, whatever. Close that off if he's wanting that done. So that's, I mean, starting to look reasonably good, isn't it? There's not a brand new motor, it's not a freshly overhauled motor or anything like that, but it's starting to look pretty good. I have ordered some trumpets to go on here, little wee short ones, and some K&N style air filters that should fit on here. Probably will poke out the side of the engine cover, the bonnet, the cowl, whatever, but that's cool. We'll cut a nice hole in it and make it all look fantastic. Bolt's been replaced here, banjo bolt, one of these ones, just old age, and someone had over torqued it and the flange off the side of it busted off, so we've just got an aftermarket one on there now to fix that. So that's all looking pretty good. Now, got the, obviously there's transmission hanging off the end of that, so there we go. As the gear lever has been fitted, maybe permanently, maybe not. It didn't have a thread on the end of here originally. It does now. I was going to turn up a gear knob for it. I'll get around to that. It's not a priority right now. The next thing is fitting up the prop shaft, which could probably do with the look of paint. It's looking a bit scratchy. It's on the shelf down there. It looks a bit manky, doesn't it? So we might as well give that a coat of paint. And then I was looking at putting the rear diff in and just double checking everything is good there and giving that a tidy up. Now, the rear diff was sitting over here, and you'll see there's some sawdust just here. That's because the pinion shaft seal on the rear diff was absolutely flogged to death. That's it there. It's not going to let me get it easily. It did get a bit of a whack to get it out because it was done anyway, but you can see somewhere on here, busted. That's only a dust seal, that part's not important. It should be a nice sharp edge inside there to stop oil coming out. You can see that's flat. How am I going to show you with one hand? Basically right on the edge of where my thumbnail is there, that peak should be nice and sharp, and that stops the oil falling out of the diff, and it's not because it's flogged to death. So tried to get a new one of those locally, was supplied that, and unfortunately that just falls in the holes, the wrong one for it. So back to our mates at Palmside with the order for the air filters and stuff is a new diff seal coming. Speaking of diff, this is our diff housing. They're actually, look, they're really light. I won't do it with one finger, so it might hurt it, but 2 fingers you can pick that up. I'm dying. Tell mummy I love her. It's all over. Got oil on. Anyway, this is our mounting system for the rear diff. This one under here I'll show you in a minute. The shock absorbers go through these two here. The shock goes in between here. There's a long bolt. Here it is. Here it is. That passes through. That worked out quite well actually, how that sat. And this bush sits here, and in between the bush and here is our top link, suspension arm, whatever we want to call it. So you've got a lot of backwards and forwards force on this relatively small tab. There's quite a lot of welding around there. That doesn't, I mean, there's a lot more on this side than what there is on this side. Doesn't look too bad, but it's pretty important. If that lets go, you're in a world of pain. There's going to be some very bad things happen. You're going to crash the car inevitably, because it's, well, you might get lucky and spin around in circles and not hit anything, but it's not good. So I just don't have much faith in this. This tube is not that thick. You can hear it's not that thick. And you could see I picked up this entire piece with my two little lazy fingers. So I'm just going to chop those off, basically. Let's chop them off and put something a bit bigger and more substantial in its place. We'll put that on there, and that will stop us having a disaster with the rear suspension coming off. I have made only two at this point in time, and now that I'm talking to you guys about it, I'm thinking that what I've actually done right there might be the go. One there, chop this piece off, put one there, and then our suspension arm's actually mounted in between two tabs, a bit like the shock. There's a space restriction, I believe, is why they've used one bolt to go right through this whole setup. It's something to do with, by the time you put a nut on the back of here and you've got the shock held with that one there, there's not enough space between here and here to get the right length bolt through, and you can't get it from the other side or something like that. I don't know. One bolt's fine, I'm happy with that. But let's, yeah, let's do that. Let's put another one of these here. And then we'll put a bush. We could actually even weld that bush, tack weld it in between the two of them. And then we've made it real good, real strong. This won't be an issue. The forces that go onto here are just pure vertical loads up and down for the shock absorber. This will be fine. It's not pretty, but it won't cause any problems. That, yeah, no, I didn't like that. That wasn't not pretty at all. All right, both ends done. They're looking beautiful. Now we have to run two separate bolts on this anyway. The shock absorber bushes that go in here, these are for 1/2 inch, and the bushes that go in here for the suspension arms, they're 12 mil. So not a problem. There's heaps of room on this side, on both sides, to get the bolt in through here for the shocks. Heaps of room here for a couple of nuts on either side. One here, one here. And if I design my brackets that hold the brake calipers correctly on the ends, then there's enough room to stick the bolt from here and like that through into there to do that one. Of course, it's obviously not anywhere near as long as that. So, ticking the box for those. They're good, they're mint. Heaps better than what we had, way stronger, quite happy with those. Those will be sufficient. They're not pretty. I don't want to just keep reinventing absolutely everything on the car. Not really. A lot of edge distance here. But we're not going to be exposing this to huge amounts of force. Remembering I can pick this up with 2 fingers. Obviously it's going to have wheels and brakes and a diff head and stuff attached to it, but it's not going to get enough momentum to tear those tabs to bits, so it'll be okay. It's not an off-roader. This is not the prettiest thing in the world, but again, I don't want to reinvent absolutely everything. That'll be fine. We'll leave it alone. It's going to get a tidy up. I'll figure out how I'm going to do that. I don't have a facility for cleaning really dirty things here, so it may go off and get sandblasted, and then we'll potentially powder coat it or paint it. It's not really a work of art, so powder coating might be a bit extreme, but it is actually a cheap, effective, robust way of getting things done. So I don't really want to go out at the moment. There's a bit of a, it's a pretty, definitely not a work of art. There's a bit of a thunderstorm going on. You guys will be furious with me. I didn't do an unboxing, I'm sorry. I started, anyway, the diff's off for powder coating. And when I came home, there was a package here waiting for us. It's our diff seal. Goes in that hole that's in there, so we can do that soon. Just no rush. We've got to wait for the rest of the stuff to come back from powder coating. We've got some little trumpets. Trumpets. I hope those are, yeah, it looks like 40 millimeters, doesn't it? They'll be the right ones. Go on the carburetors. And we got some filters. Now I'll check with the customer whether he's good with these, whether he wants these or whether he wants a different style. I kind of just bought these. He might not want these ones. So if that's the case, then I'll sell them or send them back or whatever, and we'll get some different ones. We'll see what he reckons. He reckons good. He reckons he likes those better than the original ones we were talking about. Originally we discussed using some trumpets with some foam filters that hang out the side here. Now, I got these from Palmside, down in, wherever they are, down south somewhere, because I needed the diff seal, and the best place in New Zealand to get diff seal for a 4-disc diff. So I had a look through their catalogue. They had some other foam filters. It was more of a panel arrangement. It just wasn't really what we were talking about, and I didn't think it was going to work particularly well with this actual setup. This arrangement here, I'm pretty sure, depending on what I do with the bonnet, will actually sneak in inside the cowl, engine cover, bonnet, hood thing. So that's good. He likes them. I think they look good. They suit the car in that, you know, it's old school looking, chromey and stuff. I mean, there's no chrome anywhere else than I can think of on this. There's some stainless steel nuts on the engine cover. That'll do. Yeah, matches with those, sweet as. So I went and got some new circlip pliers. These circlips in the end of these shock absorbers are very, very small, little tiny little wee itty bitty holes in them there. So I got some new pliers and then had to modify them a little bit further to get the ends in on these. These are probably the back shocks. Just purely the exact same as front, but just because I put these relatively lightweight springs on it. We'll see, they probably might end up changing. There's more down here to have a play around when we get it going, or at least get it on the ground, bounce up and down and all that sort of carry on, see whether we're any good or not, and go from there. So, and there's some new discs to replace the ones that were supposed to be for the back that I stole and put onto the hubs, which are way over there, somewhere on the front. And then something else I did today is I came in here, don't tell my daughter I used your zip line for this, I'll get shot, and made the prop shaft look nice and pretty. Isn't that beautiful? I figured I might as well because it looked absolutely manky before, so that's good now. There we go. Child won't get angry at me now. That's what spoilers are for, isn't it? Hang parts off while they're drying. So that's good. There's some hoses, the croaky throat, some hose, some fittings and stuff, and I can make a start on attaching the pushy squishy thingies to the grippy squeezy thingies. Get a start going on that. I can actually hook up the fuel hoses now on a permanent basis, route them properly. Pretty sure this isn't going to come back out. It would have been good to tear it right to pieces and vapor blast all this stuff so it'll look like brand new, but 12 months time it won't look brand new anymore anyway, so that'll do. It's a shame we don't have inboard shocks, actually, seeing those just sitting, just there just to be out of the way, but imagine if that was, yeah, anyway, we're not doing that. Not on this. Not on this. On this, however, one day, yeah, no, we're not talking about that today. Right, So that's where we're at. Diff will come, diff housing will be back next week at some point, and I want to put that all back together. Put the prop shaft in. It has to go in first because there's no way. It either has to go in and bolt up to the diff and then slot that one in. That'd be the hard way to do it. Or put the slot in, then put the prop shaft in, then you put the diff in and bolt it all up. It's the only way it's going to go in there. Won't go in otherwise, any other way. So that's it. It's Friday. I've had enough talking. You guys have had enough listening to me. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Tell your mates to watch the bloody channel and all that. Have a good weekend. It would be remiss of me not to mention the floods. The carnage from Cyclone Gabrielle. She was a bitch. She has killed a few people. There's about 8 people have passed away in New Zealand that we know of at this point in time. So that's horrific. A lot of people have lost their stuff and things. We were very fortunate and we haven't lost anything here. I don't think we even lost some twigs off some trees is basically where we're at here. So we're lucky and we're thinking about other people. It sucks. We've got a couple of customers. I've heard from 1 or 2 down that way. There are another couple that are, we haven't heard from them. They're probably okay. It's just communications are not good. All right. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers, mate.